In an age when Rome was tearing itself apart, crushed between foreign invasions, civil wars, and treacherous generals, one man rose from obscurity to unite a shattered empire. His name was Aurelian, and he would be called the restorer of the world. His beginnings are hidden in uncertainty. Ancient writers could not agree on where he was born. Some placed his origins in Sirmium, in modern Serbia, others in the rugged province of Dacia Ripensis. The date of his birth is usually given as around 214 AD. What is clear is that he came from humble stock, most likely the son of a farmer or minor provincial official. There was no silver cradle, no senatorial lineage, only the hard discipline of the frontier and the promise of a soldier's life. As a young man, Aurelian probably came under the patronage of the general Ulpius Crinitus, who may have adopted him symbolically. He spent his early years serving in the ranks of Rome's armies during the reign of Gallienus. The empire was already in crisis, and Gallienus relied heavily on an elite mobile cavalry force to respond to threats across the empire. Aurelian's skill with both horse and sword was exceptional, and by the early reign of Claudius II Gothicus, he seems to have commanded that very cavalry unit. His reputation for strict discipline and relentless speed in battle earned him the nickname Manu ad Ferrum, hand on sword. The backdrop to his rise was the crisis of the 3rd century, a generation-long storm that saw Rome nearly torn apart. The empire faced constant barbarian invasions from Goths, Alemanni, and Sarmatians. The Sassanid Persians struck deep into the east. Civil wars were constant, as generals proclaimed themselves emperor, sometimes reigning for only weeks. In 260, disaster struck. Emperor Valerian was captured alive by the Sassanids, the first Roman ruler to suffer such a fate. His son Gallienus ruled the remaining empire, but the shock of Valerian's capture broke Rome's authority in its provinces. The east turned to Palmyra, whose ruler Odenathus and later Queen Zenobia carved out a powerful state that could defend them from Persia. In the west, Gaul, Britain, and Hispania broke away entirely, forming the Gallic Empire under Postumus. Rome was no longer one empire, it was three, with its core lands shrinking and its authority crumbling. When Claudius II died in 270, his brother Quintillus seized power with the backing of the Senate. But in the army camps of the Balkans, the legions had other plans. In Sirmium, Aurelian's soldiers proclaimed him emperor, August or September by most accounts, though some ancient sources suggest May. In the typical fashion of the age, the decision of the soldiers overruled the Senate's will. Quintillus's reign collapsed almost instantly, and Aurelian inherited an empire surrounded by enemies and fractured from within. From the moment he took power, Aurelian was in constant motion. He knew that speed was his greatest weapon, not just in battle, but in the politics of survival. Every day he delayed gave rivals time to gather strength, and in the crisis of the 3rd century, an emperor's life expectancy was often measured in months. He began in the Balkans, where the Goths and Vandals had crossed the Danube in force. Aurelian struck with precision, driving them back and forcing peace on terms favorable to Rome. But he also took a decisive and pragmatic step, abandoning the province of Dacia beyond the Danube. It had become indefensible, and holding it drained resources needed for the empire's heartlands. In a single stroke, he gave up territory, but strengthened Rome's core defenses, establishing a new fortified frontier south of the river. Next came the east. The Palmyrene Empire under Queen Zenobia controlled Syria, Egypt, and much of Asia Minor, lands vital for grain, trade, and Rome's eastern defense. Aurelian's march was relentless. He defeated Zenobia's forces at Imme near Antioch, using feigned retreats to draw the enemy cavalry into traps. At Emesa, he crushed the Palmyrene army again, and then besieged Palmyra itself. Zenobia attempted to escape across the Euphrates, seeking aid from Persia, but was captured. Palmyra fell, and the east returned to Roman rule. Aurelian spared the city, but when it revolted the following year, his patience ended. Palmyra was sacked, its monuments destroyed, and its days of independence were over. In the west, the Gallic Empire still stood under Emperor Tetricus, ruling Gaul, Britain, and Hispania. Rather than a desperate last stand, Tetricus saw the writing on the wall. In secret, he sent Aurelian a plea for rescue, allegedly offering to hand over his army in exchange for protection. In 274, at the Battle of Chalons, the Gallic forces collapsed. Whether by treachery or sheer Roman discipline, Aurelian emerged victorious. Tetricus was not executed. Instead, he was paraded in Aurelian's triumph through Rome and later appointed to a governorship, a sign that Aurelian valued stability over vengeance. By the end of 274, Rome was whole again. In less than 5 years, Aurelian had destroyed the Palmyrene Empire, absorbed the Gallic Empire, secured the Danube frontier, and restored the authority of the central government. His victory celebrations were among the most lavish Rome had seen in decades. Exotic animals, captured rulers, and mountains of treasure were paraded through the streets. The Senate, in recognition of his achievement, awarded him the title Restitutor Orbis, Restorer of the World. But Aurelian's restoration was more than military. He reformed the coinage, trying to halt the inflation that had crippled the economy. He strengthened the city's defenses, ordering the construction of the massive Aurelian walls around Rome, a clear sign that even the capital was no longer safe from barbarian attack. He reorganized the grain supply, ensuring the city could be fed even in times of war. For a brief, shining moment, the empire looked as if it might emerge from the chaos. The borders were secure, the provinces were united, and the emperor's authority was respected across the Roman world. Aurelian had done what few thought possible. He had taken an empire in pieces and forged it back into one,